You notice it on a Thursday. Not the con itself. The con is good. The con is genuinely, technically, impressively good, and you will give credit for this later when the appropriate moment arrives. What you notice on a Thursday is a single detail that does not belong. A thread pulled slightly loose from a fabric that was otherwise immaculate. A seam where there should be no seam. Most people wouldn't notice it. Most people are not you. You are sitting across a restaurant table from a woman named Claire who has been in your life for 11 days and who arrived in it the way the best ones always arrive, through a coincidence so perfectly constructed that it felt like the universe arranging itself rather than a person doing the arranging. She has a story that holds. Credentials that check out. A warmth that feels specific to you rather than performed for you, which is the hardest thing to manufacture and the clearest sign of serious craft when you see it. She is telling you something about her work. An investment portfolio. A specific opportunity. The language is precise and technical and deployed with the confidence of someone who knows the subject rather than someone who memorized the subject, which is a distinction that matters enormously and that almost nobody gets right. She's getting it right. And there, in the middle of a sentence about projected quarterly returns, she uses a phrase. 3 words. A specific 3-word construction that you know because you invented it. 12 years ago. In a different city. For a different mark. A piece of proprietary language from a financial instrument that does not exist and has never existed and that you built from the inside out to be unfindable because it was designed for a single use in a single room with a single person who believed in it completely and lost $400,000 believing in it. Those 3 words do not exist outside of that room. They cannot. Unless someone was in that room. Or someone who was in that room told someone who is now sitting across a restaurant table from you deploying them with the fluency of a person who has practiced them until they feel natural. You don't change your expression. You lift your wine glass. You ask a follow-up question about the quarterly returns. You listen to the answer. You file everything. The evening ends warmly. You walk her to her car. You drive home. You sit in your kitchen and you think about the 3 words and what they mean and who sent them and what exactly is being built around you right now while you are watching something else. Then you smile. For the first time in a long time. Because someone is trying to con the best con artist in the world and they have been good enough to get 11 days in before you found the thread. Now you are going to pull it. Chapter 1. What you are. You didn't choose this work. This is the truth that people find least satisfying when they want an origin story with a clear moral architecture. There was no single betrayal that taught you the world was dishonest. No poverty that justified the taking. No ideology that makes the deception a form of justice. There was simply a discovery, early, that you could look at a person for 4 minutes and understand the specific shape of what they needed to believe, and that once you understood the shape you could build something that fitted exactly, and that people who found something that fit exactly what they needed to believe would believe it with a completeness that made verification feel like an insult to the feeling. This is a skill. Like perfect pitch or spatial reasoning. You didn't earn it. It arrived with you. You simply learned to use it. 23 years. 14 countries. A number you stopped counting at 9 years in because counting felt like the kind of accountability that only mattered to people who were eventually going to stop. You have never been caught. This is not luck. Luck is what amateurs rely on when craft runs out. You have never been caught because you are precise and patient, and because you understand the fundamental principle that separates the professional from the amateur in this work. The amateur cons the mark. The professional cons the situation. You never take from a person. You create a set of circumstances in which a person makes a decision that feels entirely their own and that happens to produce the outcome you intended before they walked into the room. The distinction matters. Morally, it matters less than you once tried to convince yourself it did. Technically, it is the difference between someone who gets caught and someone who does not. You are someone who does not. Until 11 days ago, when a woman named Claire appeared at a gallery, opening through a coincidence you now understand was not a coincidence, and said 3 words over wine that did not belong in her mouth. Chapter 2. 11 days backward. You go back through everything. This is the professional response. Not angry. Emergency alarm. Reconstruction. You lay the 11 days out in sequence the way you would lay out any operation, and you examine each element for what it actually was versus what it was presented as. The gallery opening. You were there legitimately. A genuine interest in a specific artist whose work you have followed for 3 years. The coincidence was her standing next to the one piece in the room you had specifically come to see. In your work you call this placement. Positioning a person in the precise location where an organic meeting feels inevitable. Whoever planned this knew your genuine interest in this artist. That information is not public. It exists in a conversation with a dealer in Amsterdam 4 years ago, and in a purchase made through an intermediate, and in the specific interior of a life you have kept very carefully separated from anything that could be researched. Except the dealer. You think about the dealer. Then you think about who knows the dealer. Then you think about a specific transaction 18 months ago involving a man in Zurich whose money you helped relocate to a place he ultimately could not find and whose resources are considerable and whose patience, you now calculate, is longer than you credited. The credentials that checked out. You check them using 3 separate methods, 2 digital and 1 human. A contact who verifies identities for clients who need verification done by someone who understands that official records are the easiest thing to build if you know where the building happens. You trusted the contact. You have used the contact 11 times. The contact has always been reliable. You think about what reliable means when someone has had 18 months to prepare and sufficient resources to make preparation thorough. The warmth that felt specific. This is the one that costs the most to examine honestly. Because you are the person who identifies manufactured warmth for a living, and you did not identify it. You felt it and you responded to it, and across 11 days you made decisions based on it that you would not have made based on a performance. Which means either she is better than anyone you have encountered in 23 years, or the warmth was not entirely manufactured. Both possibilities are interesting. Only one of them is comfortable. Chapter 3. The shape of what they want. By the end of the reconstruction you know 3 things. Who is behind it? The man from Zurich whose money you relocated, working through intermediaries the way you work through intermediaries because he learned from what happened to him. What the mechanism is, Claire and the investment opportunity and the specific financial instrument she is going to present in detail at the dinner she has scheduled for Saturday. And approximately what the end looks like, not revenge in the simple sense but recovery. An attempt to use your own precision against you, to build something that fits the shape of what you need to believe and watch you walk into it with the same completeness you have watched others walk into things you built. This is sophisticated. This is the most sophisticated thing anyone has attempted against you in 23 years, and you sit with that for a moment without rushing past it because honest assessment is the foundation of everything, and the honest assessment is that this is good. Claire is good. The gallery placement was good. The 3 words were a mistake, but a small one, and it was your specific expertise that caught it, and almost nobody else would have caught it, which means for almost anyone else this would already be over. You think about Saturday's dinner. The financial instrument she is going to present. The ask that will come with it, a figure you can estimate based on what the Zurich man lost, and what interest 18 months of planning would add to the principle of the grievance. You think about what you would do if you were building this. What the exit looks like. Where the pressure point is. How they intend to ensure that you cannot simply walk away from the dinner and disappear the way you have always simply walked away and disappeared. Then you think about the warmth. You think about 11 days of it. You set that aside. You pick it back up. You set it aside again. Professional discipline requires setting it aside. Something else requires picking it up. You are not entirely sure what that something else is, and you do not have time to examine it because Saturday is 2 days away and you have an operation to run. Chapter 4. The counter. You call Claire on Friday morning. Not to confront. Confrontation is the amateur move. You call with warmth that matches hers, because you are who you are and matching warmth is something you can do in your sleep, and you tell her you have been thinking about the investment opportunity and that you have some thoughts you would like to share before Saturday. You suggest lunch instead of dinner. Somewhere public. Somewhere you choose. This last part matters. You name a restaurant. You hear the quarter-second pause before she agrees, the pause of someone checking the suggestion against a plan and finding that the plan can accommodate it. The break tells you the dinner location was chosen for a reason. You file this. Lunch. You arrive 8 minutes early. You sit with your back to the wall facing the door the way you always sit. She arrives at exactly the agreed time, which is itself information, and she is composed and warm, and the specific quality of the warmth is the same as it has been for 11 days, and you watch it land on you the way you watch everything, from a slight interior distance, and note that the distance is slightly less than it was on day 1. You let her present. The financial instrument is beautiful. Genuinely beautiful. The technical language is flawless. The projected returns are calibrated to the precise level of credibility that does not trigger skepticism in a sophisticated investor, high enough to be attractive, restrained enough to be believable. The ask is what you estimated, Close enough that your estimate was right and far enough that they did their own calculations. You listen to all of it. You ask 3 questions that tell her you are engaged and considering and almost persuaded. Then you put a folder on the table. Inside the folder is a single document. You watch her look at it. You watch the composition hold for 2 seconds and then shift by a degree that only someone who was watching for the shift would see. The document is a record of a conversation between a gallery in Amsterdam and an intermediary in Zurich from 14 months ago. The conversation references a project. The project references a mark. The mark is described in terms that are specific and accurate and unmistakable to you. You say nothing. You let her read. This is the moment you know best. The moment when the structure that someone built is suddenly visible to them from the inside, and they understand that it has been visible to someone else for longer than they realized. You have sat across from this moment many times. You have never been satisfied on this side of it. She looks up. For the first time in 11 days, the warmth is entirely absent, and what replaces it is something cleaner. Something that is closer to the thing you recognize when you look in a mirror in the specific moments when professional habit drops and what is actually there looks back. She says, "How long have you known?" You say, 11 days. She says, the 3 words. You say yes. She almost smiles. Chapter 5. What professionals do. You talk for 2 hours. This is not in any plan either of you made. The Zurich man's operation ends in this lunch, and you both understand this, and neither of you calls anyone to report it because neither of you is in the business of reporting things, and the conversation that fills the 2 hours is the most honest conversation you have had in longer than you can accurately measure. She is exactly as good as the 11 days suggested. Not manufactured. Trained. The distinction matters in ways that take 20 minutes of conversation to establish, and that you both understand once it is established because the distinction maps onto something in your own history that you have not discussed with anyone. She tells you 3 things about how the operation was built that you genuinely did not know, and you file them without making it obvious that you are filing them, and she notices anyway because she is who she is. The Zurich man doesn't want to get his money back. This was always the actual outcome regardless of whether the con succeeded, because money relocated by you stays relocated. But the Zurich man does not know this yet, and the question of when and how he learns it is now a different problem from the one it was this morning. You discuss this. Practically. The way professionals discuss a logistical problem. You are aware while discussing it that the ease of the discussion is itself a data point about the 11 days that you are choosing not to process directly, because Saturday is now today, and you have been awake since 5, and there is a limit to how much honest assessment one day can hold. You pay the bill. You stand outside the restaurant in the afternoon light, and she looks at you with the expression of someone completing an accurate calculation and reaching an unexpected result. She says she was told you were the best. You say you were. She says the past tense is interesting. You say it was meant to be. She walks left. You walk right. You get half a block before you stop. You think about the warmth. 11 days of it. The specific quality of something that was trained, but not therefore false. The gallery and the painting and the coincidence that was not a coincidence, but that put you next to a piece of work you genuinely loved regardless of why you were placed next to it. You think about what the best con artist in the world does when someone has spent 11 days building something around them that turned out to contain something real inside the construction. You turn around. She hasn't gone far. She is standing at the corner with the expression of someone who ran the same calculation and achieved the same unexpected result. You walk back. You say dinner. Not Saturday. Tonight. No instruments. No folders. No Zurich. She looks at you for a moment with the professional assessment of someone checking a proposition for hidden structure. You let her look. There is no hidden structure. This is the most vulnerable thing you have done in 23 years, and you are doing it on a Friday afternoon on a public street, and the feeling of it is so unfamiliar that you almost mistake it for a threat. She says yes.